What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another segment of HR Heretics. Kelly, you're back in the building. How was vacation?
What's happening? It was great. So, a long time ago, we were talking about, our families and what's going on in the background. And so we had this vacation scheduled. I think we booked it like a year and a half ago or something like that. And we were supposed to go in March. And my mom got sick, in February. And we had to cancel the whole damn thing. It was a whole Tahiti, you know what I mean? Very like meticulously planned. And we just had to cancel it. And I was like, I don't care. Just pick a date. It just can't be now. Move it. And all of a sudden, here we are. It was like
Yeah, that's how it comes.
October 16th. I'm like, holy shit, it's here. We're leaving.
How
It
was
was
it?
good. It was great. Have an ear infection from a little diving, a little snorkeling, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's clearing out. I can hear you fine. So it was good. So we flew into Tahiti. And by the way, for those of you in California, you'll probably agree with this, especially the Bay Area, but it's like an 8.5 hour flight. It says 9. It's like 7.5, 8. They hit it in. And it is, in my opinion, so much better than Hawaii. And
What?
like, I kind of grew up going to Hawaii. My family was kind of one of those, like, my mom and dad were like sun freaks, and like we'd go like on standby on like Christmas and just like take a chance. And back then they always let you on, so we would go like every year, just cheap style, boom, to Maui. Tahiti is literally 2.5 hours beyond Maui, Nolan. And it's like, depends on what your preference is, obviously, but like I'm full on like less people, more rustic, like, whatever. And for those of you in the Bay, like whenever I go to Maui, I fucking see everyone I know. I'm like, dude, I went to college with you and I just ran in with you at the airport. I don't want to say hi. I want to be like gone. I want to hang out with people that aren't like me and live like me. And I want to, and it's just a very cool place.
Cool.
So, I just, for the past 8 days, have been saying, Yorona, Maruru.
I
And
mean,
it's just, they're
I,
so happy.
I would have expected you to be Tanner.
Well, okay, so Nolan asked me, like, what'd you do? I'm like, well, melanoma's no joke. That's number one. Skin cancer, it's a big deal. And I grew up in the sun without using a lot of sunscreen. So now I'm like a sunscreen freak. And we buy the reef-friendly sunscreen, which those of you don't know, and if you're on your commute, you always love to laugh at us. I mean, I looked like a walking snowball. Like, I put that on my face, and Hillary's like, we're not leaving this room until that's a little bit more, a little bit more
Let's
rubbed
rub
in.
that in, girl, please.
Let's rub that in. And I said, you know what? It's fine. Everyone knows that no one wants to get skin cancer anymore. So I'm just bouncing around looking like Casper.
Perfect. Well, now you're
Perfect.
back and you look the same, but I'm happy you're rested and I'm happy you had a great time. And happy you
Yeah,
guys
big
rescheduled.
fan. For those of you who are interested, ping me. It's a great spot, much easier to get to than a lot of people think.
All right, let's get back to regular scheduled programming. So we had a submission for Dear Heretics. This gal says, when beginning the process for a riff, what are the top 3 things I should keep in mind? What are some of the lessons you've learned along the way that you wish someone had told you at the earliest stages of planning? Kelly, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. My initial thought, and I just said it to actually not Jerry, not Supio, but another founder. I said, in my opinion, anything you can do to avoid a riff as far out as possible, that's what I try to do. And that includes like not illegally, but even if you have to uncomfortably architect different things like headcount, increasing performance management in suboptimal ways. I really do believe, Nolan, whether it's 1% of your workforce or 30%, it has the same impact as far as ripple through the organization and ripple through the external market on your brand. So the 3 things I try to do immediately to avoid a riff is say, why are we doing it? Let's get really clear on why we're doing this. This is short-term dieting, as Colleen puts it, just to like, get to a healthy spot in my opinion, a more lazy, like quick way. Sometimes it's necessary, but if it's that, like, let's try and figure out how to stop headcount, how to stop backfilling people that leave, how to accelerate performance management and reduce cost as much as possible, ideally in uncomfortable ways, or even in uncomfortable ways, to avoid having to do that. Because I do think it is something that once that toothpaste out of the tube, takes a very long time, if ever, to put it back in.
Yep,
Usually
I
it's not
agree with
possible.
you. Yeah, it does feel like we're in a moment right now to where riffs are back. Word on the street is that large tech companies are kind of doing these like rolling layoffs, such that they're like small, like honestly, like probably like too small and too frequent for tech news to pick it up. One of my friends was just impacted by one of these 2 weeks ago, but it does feel like more of this stuff is coming over the weekend. And Amazon's been talking, like a document got leaked to where they're talking about basically eliminating like half of their warehouse staff. So I think we're going to start to see more of this again as we did in 22 and 23. At the end of 22, I presented at Slush, which is kind of like this like startup conference thing, and my presentation was on navigating layoffs. So going back to 2020, I was the CPO at Carta, and we ran a layoff. We cut 13% of our workforce, but we actually got like a ton of applause online for how we did it. And I give all the credit to Henry for how he did this. If you guys want to look this stuff up, by the way, there's a YouTube video of my presentation. And then Henry posted the letter he sent to everybody internally on Medium. So all of this stuff is like publicly available. But there's like two pieces I'm going to go through. One is kind of like this playbook that I learned. The other piece is like how people respond to this and how you treat them. And I think they're together, but they're a little bit different. So on the playbook side, thing number one is like, what is the goal? Like, what are we trying to accomplish here? Why are we doing this? Do we need to do this, to your point, Kelly? Always looking at non-headcount expenses as like the next thing, but everybody knows 80% of OpEx is people. So then you got to get into like, what is the cut criteria? Who are we cutting? Why are we cutting? Is tenure a part of this? Is it specific organizations? Like getting deep into that thing. Making sure that you loop in employment legal and run a DEI analysis. That was something that we had a ton of help with from Fenwick. You gotta prep your managers. Like your managers are going to be on the front line on this. And so training them is super important. And then it kind of gets into the like, who's going to be the face of this? And it should be the CEO. Oftentimes they're like, oh, like, have your exec go do. It's like, no, the CEO needs to talk about this because to your point, Kelly, it 100% will hit the entire company. Like the entire company will feel this and they will start to have second thoughts unless they know why you're doing it, that you're methodical about it, that you've thought it through and that you're treating people right. And the last few things is you got to exit people and then you got to reset the current team. Like everybody forgets that part too, is like layoff happens. Now what? Everyone feels like shit. And so resetting that team, I think, is super important. So really fast on the other side, what we did at Carta, there was two major principles. One was like, we wanted to be as humane as possible. And we also wanted to cut too deep. So we wanted to run one layoff, one time. And if we had somebody on the fence or a thing on the fence, we decided to cut that and then hire people back if we needed it. And the business was doing well enough to justify it over the course of the next year. And we actually ended up hiring a number of people back. So that was the way we thought about it.
Yeah, I like the too deep. I mean that's a common and understandable kind of error or overlook is not doing that because you want to save as many people as possible, right? And human instinct is to cut as least amount of people as possible, right? For that reason. Yep. What that usually leads to your point, is you got to do it again. So I do think even if you do scenarios, like let's do a, high, medium, low, or looking at the scenarios, even going through that exercise, even if you don't do it, is important because you might have to use it again, right? Whether you do the right thing or not. Hey everyone, we'll be right back in a moment after a word from our sponsors. AI changes how work gets done. Recruiting is no exception. Metaview is the AI platform purpose-built for recruiting. If you're looking to level up your AI adoption and see real impact from intake to offer, it's a no-brainer. Metaview's suite of AI agents works for you at every stage of the hiring process. Their platform powers instant job post creation, AI-powered candidate Q&A, insights on pipeline performance, compensation, and so much more.
I've seen firsthand how tough it can be to extract consistently high-quality data from candidate conversations. I've been in candidate debriefs where interviewers told us about their feelings instead of what actually happened in the interview. And I've seen VPs and CEOs block hires because they didn't learn anything from skeleton scorecards. Metaview changes all of that. For every candidate in every pipeline, bring radical efficiency and precision to your hiring process with perfect data from every conversation. Metaview covers all of your compliance needs, works with all of your existing tools, and takes less than 3 minutes to set up. Join talent leaders at more than 3,000 elite companies like Brex, Deel, 11 Labs, and Quora, and check out Metaview. Just head over to metaview.ai/heretics to talk to one of Metaview's product experts or get started for free. You'll be up, running, and AI-enabled in minutes.
The thing that I always, talk about with folks is what it's like. It's classic change management, but no, change management's such a freaking change management. It's like, dude, there's a thing, there's an event, or there's an action, or there's a decision, or there's a communication, right? There's something. And I was just talking about this the other week. What matters more than that thing is what you do leading up to it and what you do after it. And that's where most of the work happens. A lot of companies I've worked for, especially earlier stage companies with not a ton of experienced leaders or CEOs, they want to jump to the thing. We got a riff. Oh my God, let's do it tomorrow. Let's do it next week. And it's like, listen, no. Like, let's not go slow, because we've talked about this, Nolan. Going too slow is silly. But let's go a little slower to go faster later. Let's make sure that we're looking everywhere in the organization, that we're thinking about ways to do this once, if we have to do it at all. And let's make sure that we spend time nailing the stuff leading up to, the planning, the criteria, the clarity of this, because you're going to have to explain it after. And the better you can explain it after in a very genuine way, the faster you're going to be able to bounce back and go as a business. So leading up and leading after, a lot of companies overlook and try to spend the least amount of time as possible because they want to jump to the riff to get their instant gratification, and they want to jump to getting back to business to keep making money. And you're just kind of fucking yourself on both those sides if you don't think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's tough to influence, though, on that topic. And one of the ways that I think I was effective in influencing was actually like having some of our leaders talk to other leaders who had been through rifts before.
Yes.
Like people they admire, having gone through a same situation, like just ask them what they learned, right?
Yeah.
It's so much better because otherwise it looks like you're the Bureau of Red Tape.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right.
You know what I mean? How do you get them to realize it's the right thing to do is typically not through you saying we should slow down.
Yes, especially when you're earlier in your career and you might be a little more, junior than the CEO or founder or whatever. You're totally right. And even like invite someone in, not like to talk to the leadership team or to talk to a few of you, right, that are planning this. Like, hey, I worked with someone, or this person has 28 years of experience. They've done this many times. Let's just bounce some things off them together. Do it together. Let those leaders hear them versus you being the translator, because it's the same kind of effect. Later in your career, like honestly, I've done so many of these. Unfortunately, I said, it's not something you put on your LinkedIn or your resume, but being good at riffs is a skill set. So when you're later in your career, I could be you gotta trust me on this. Like, just take 4 more days and hear some stories or hear some things, and help them see around the corner. The other thing that I would say is just freaking admitting this sucks and admitting it's hard. Like we saw all those posts, Nolan, and those communications, and they kind of come off as a little just dismissive and like unapologetic almost. I do think it's important not to be fake about it, but to say like, we fucked up here. We overhired. We did this. We missed this. We're learning. Like that is a way to just be honest about it and not hide things and come off again like you're right and you're doing all the right things. You did this for a reason. And if it wasn't your fault, there is a reason. And just to be like very transparent about that, because the question's going to come. Like, this is every AMA, dude. Here's the next question. Are we going to have another riff? Always happens.
Yep. 100%. Some things that we did that I thought worked really well that surprised me was we did like an opt-in or opt-out thing. So we did 3 months of severance, and then we also gave everybody who was not impacted the opportunity to take the same severance package and gave them a week to think about it. I was terrified about that from just like a business continuity standpoint. And I think that actually like really helped reset people like faster. We did have a couple people take it, by the way, which
Yep.
did suck because like, you're already running on like a skeleton crew. But if they don't want to be there, then what are we doing here? You know what I mean? And it's the perfect time to kind of like go through this seminal moment and get to the other side.
It is.
So
I did the same thing when I was at Hired in 2016, and
yeah,
I was uncomfortable with it. It was a little, 10 years ago in my career, but it had a really good outcome. I think we had 8 people plus or minus opt
yeah.
in.
So we did that. The other thing we did is like in selective cases, we made comp increases. And so like mostly in the form of equity, but I believe in tucking in top performers and letting people know. And it's, just because you're doing an exercise to cut cost doesn't mean that you can't like selectively think about where it makes sense to invest. If we're looking at it as zero-based budgeting, right? And now all of a sudden things have changed. You have, call it central points of failure or business continuity or just like people that must help us through this next phase
Yes.
and you need them there, you should tuck them in.
Yeah.
And that was something I was like, when we first started discussing it, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. And then when we were going through the plan, I was like, actually, I think we must do this.
Yeah.
Like we need them.
Yeah. Throwing the baby out with the bathwater is not smart. I mean, talent retention and motivation does not go away after you lay people off.
Yeah.
It might even get more, more important.
Exactly.
I do want to say though that AMA, Nolan, like
Yeah.
if you do get that, which I would bet my left foot that you will, are we going to have more layoffs?
Yeah.
Please don't answer it with "we can't answer that." That is the opposite, I think, of being genuine. We all know that we can't promise that we're not going to have more layoff. Explain to the company how you are trying to make sure that there are no more layoffs. Explain the strategy. Explain the bets and the hypothesis. Explain what the leadership team is going to do differently now to try and prevent this from ever happening again. And please leave the company with action plans to be a part of that help.
What do you mean by action plans?
What can everyone do? What is your ask of the organization to help support all those strategies and all those new ways of working that the leadership team is trying to do to make sure that this doesn't happen again? Is it being more responsible? Is it being very judicious with hiring? Is it using tech and AI versus a body to fix something? Is it like what are the asks that you have of everyone to help protect their own jobs?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. A couple of other things we did is we did like the company-wide announcement where Henry like did the whole thing in an all hands. Then we had each employee impacted talk to their managers. And a lot of people like want to skip that step. My experience with that was like that was super critical in order to like make people feel like we actually cared and talked like just gave them as much information as we had, told them like what we were going to try and do. We were trying to use our recruiting team to help them find jobs, obviously like long severances, those sorts of things, but like more into the detail stuff. And then the other thing we did is we left Slack open for 24 hours. And that was like, yeah, it was really cool to do. Every lawyer in the world will tell you it's the worst idea ever. And look, the thing is like these people have already been here. They've already had access to sensitive information. It's like if you cut them and then act like, you know what I mean? It's like they probably already have stuff like laying around anyways. Assuming good intent really like helps people on the other side. And it's like they have friends, like they want to say goodbye, they want to get contact information. Like if you make that hard on them, I think it's just like an asshole move.
It's amazing what happens when you actually treat people with trust, you know? I don't even want to say with like adults because that's silly. It's amazing what happens when you design things for 98% of the group versus the 2%. And by the way, if you try to just design it for the 2% and cut everyone off, like 98% of the time, the word's out on these riffs before you execute them. Like everyone knows it's coming. So
Exactly.
if I think I'm going to get laid off and there's whispers of riffs for 2 weeks before, if I'm going to do shit and take stuff, it's already done. If I'm going to say things about people, it's already said.
That's a really good point. On the rumor mill thing, you just can't avoid it, right, Kelly? Like it's going to happen.
You cannot avoid it. And
Yeah.
I just kind of frankly, I just get annoyed when people are like, oh my God, everyone's talking about, is there going to be a riff? I'm getting questioned. It's like, yes, that is going to happen. What do I say? What do you think you should say? So it happens all the time.
I think it's like 98% of the time, like people catch wind in some way, shape, or form.
We've used 98% a lot in this episode. There's nothing to it. It's just
just guesstimation. But do you actually so when people would ask you this question, right? Would you say yeah, we're looking into it?
No, I did not say we're looking into it, but certainly did not say no because you can't say no. And even when you say, listen, I can't go in, I can't go into that, the answer is yes. So
yeah.
Again, so again, I'll go back to it. What you do before leading up to it is and after is almost more important than the event. Because if you prep so well and you're so dialed and locked in, stuff starts leaking, stuff starts moving, you can press green. You can go early. You can be very well prepared to rapid turn around into the comms plan and address some of these things without taking weeks to do it, right?
Yep.
The last thing I'll say, Nolan, is one trap I've seen is with riffs, the emperor has no clothes kind of thing, and all of a sudden, you get AMAs on how come none of the leaders got laid off? It's all these builders and doers and ICs, all you ivory tower execs and VPs and directors are all safe. Just make sure you're kicking the tires on that, because that's not a good look.
Yeah, you're also going to get the question of why didn't everybody take a pay cut?
Right.
We had that one a lot, and Colleen actually did this, right? So friend of the show, Colleen McCreary, they actually took pay cuts instead of doing a riff, and I think it's more of it's a philosophy sort of a thing. I can see both sides on this. Henry's take was if you make people take a pay cut, then the best people are more likely to leave. And again, I can see both sides of it. I think it's more of a philosophical discussion with your CEO on the type of culture they want to have. But the last thing I'll leave the audience with is Jenny said this to me, who was our head of HR at the time. And she said, people are going to remember this day for the rest of their lives. And, it's one of those situations to where you need to do the golden rule here, to apply the golden rule, which is treat others the way that you would want to be treated in the situation. And it's brutal, especially in this market right now, given what we went through in 22, 23. A lot of those jobs haven't come back. More layoffs are coming now. It's super challenging. And so, wherever you can help, obviously there's the severance piece, but then also just being a human with the other person that's being impacted and being in the mud with them, I think goes a really long way. And you would want that if you were on the other side of the table.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this, I think, over a year ago now, which feels like 8 years ago.
I know.
You never know when you're being recorded.
100%. That's true.
When that conversation shows up on some, I don't know, platform.
On the internets. So tough topic. Sorry you guys are going through this again. But me and Kel are going to keep delivering content, trying to help you guys navigate. And if you guys do need help, please ping us.
Absolutely.
See ya. HR Heretics is a podcast from Turpentine, the network behind Econ 102, Moment of Zen, and Turpentine VC. Subscribe, 5 stars, share it on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, all the things.